You know, these are not the reasons people behave in this way, because lots of people who live in those communities who are also exposed to those problems don't behave in this way. So we need to look a little bit more deeply at the problems that exist in particular areas.
I think the one cut which hasn't happened yet, but which everybody is talking about, that I just want to mention, is of course if they continue the cuts in the police force as is now, that really is going to appear to affect the ability of the police to cope with such situations. Do you think the government's going to have to rethink?
Well, they've already stated that they're not prepared to
I know
rethink
that's
this,
what,
which
yeah.
is
But
which
then
is
David
bizarre.
Cameron's in Parliament today, which he may change his mind. I mean, do you think they need to, though, whether
Look,
they're going to or not?
I talk to a lot of policemen. You know, I know a lot of policemen. I have friends who are policemen. Many of them are Christians, and you know, they tell me that they could deal with these problems quite effectively if they were allowed to. And what they're suggesting very strongly to me, and I think that, you know, this is kind of common knowledge certainly throughout the police force, is that that police force has been stripped of all of its powers. In fact, it's not a force anymore, is it, Doug? It's a service.
Yes.
You know, what are these people? Social workers? I want to see a police force that can go out into the communities and deal with these problems quickly, immediately, so that people who live in these communities don't have their lives disrupted, are not traumatized. And I think that years and years of political correctness and political fiddling in the police force have stripped our police of the ability to do the job that we all know that they can do and that they know that they can do. They've been used as a political football, particularly by the last Labour government. I'm sorry, I've got to say it, okay? And, you know, we're reaping the consequences of that now. Just like the education system, you know, it's been used as a political football for social engineering. It's an awful
So with
state
the
of
police
affairs.
force, we're not looking for a police force that wears guns and truncheons and deals with it. So in other words, we are still looking, and I know this is what you're not saying, but just in case anybody else is getting the wrong end of the stick, we're not looking for, you know, group that are out there on the streets doing that heavy-handed all the time. But when something like this happens and is needed, yes, they have got to be out there and in force.
Absolutely. You know, look, we in our country police by consent. They've always policed by consent, and long may that last. I don't want to see some kind of totalitarian police force on the streets in riot gear every day of the week, and no one's suggesting that. But what we do want to see is a police force that can respond quickly to these situations and deal with them very quickly. And I think that we haven't seen that over the last 4 days.
Okay. We're going to, let's work this out. We're going to read a few emails. We're going to another clip that underlines some of the issues that we are facing. And then we've got Pastor Crosby with us. He's one of our viewers. Been out on the streets in amongst the riots, and we want to chat with him and talk with him. But let's just get some of these emails that are coming in. First of all, blessings, Doug and Leon. We have to go back to the Ten Commandments, which said we must not have any other gods before the God. Graham says the handwriting of the BBC, the hand wringing, sorry, not the handwriting, the hand wringing of the BBC is a joke. The organisation is the propaganda machine of the liberal left.
Absolutely.
I thought you would agree with that. A very long one here from Steve in North Wales. I haven't got time to read it all, but basically he is really advocating the need to get back to a loving and caring discipline. We're asking our youth leaders to behave better and have more respect than our leaders and politicians mainly. Again, that comes down to that role model throughout, doesn't it, from that area. From Satinda, she says a good way to deal with the riots is to send the kids back to school earlier. Being at school would keep them off the streets, and by the register they could be accounted for. In an ideal world, mainly, I don't think that really would finally Well, James says, I wish your guest would stop associating people with the central left political views as immoral. I'm a Christian social democrat.
Well, can I just respond to
Please
that?
do. Yeah, I think you need to.
I'm not associating people with the central left as being immoral. What I'm suggesting is that their policies over the last 30 to 40 years have been misguided and have wreaked havoc with our institutions and in our country. Many of these people on the left are motivated by noble and good intentions, but it is very clear that the society that they have created over the last 30 to 40 years is in crisis. The people of this country agree with that. The people of this country can see what's going on. They are fed up with it and they want change. So, you know, I'm not suggesting that they are immoral. I'm suggesting that they are misguided.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's the answer to that. Stacks more emails, but let's at this point go to another clip which deals with the fact that police and military may not be and cannot be the only answer. The community needs also to be involved. And after this, we'll come back. If all gone well, we'll have Pastor Crosby sitting with us.
People have now been confirmed dead as rioting moves across the UK. Prime Minister David Cameron vowed to end the violence that was sparked after police shot a man dead in Tottenham, North London. Let's discuss the situation with Richard Seymour. He's a British writer and an activist joining us on the line from London tonight. Mr Seymour, very good evening. The UK Prime Minister says the fight back is underway. Why did it take so long, though, to employ these tougher measures?
I think because, for a start, the political leadership was in a bit of disarray. David Cameron was on holiday. The Metropolitan Police is in serious crisis over the whole Hackgate scandal. That's taken out a large chunk of its leadership, and there's a lot of competition going on for who's going to take over those roles. And in addition to that, the Metropolitan Police has spent a generation trying to repair some of the damage done to relations with black communities in this country. The last thing they need now is to fritter all of that work away. One of the real problems they're facing here is that the unit that killed Mark Duggan was a unit belonging to Operation Trident. That was supposed to be a unit that was set up on the initiative of the black community. It now seems to be one that's entering a serious crisis.
Well, you know, you're saying that the police, yes, have come in for serious criticism over the shooting of that man. Some saying this is what triggered the riots. Of course, his family really want to distance themselves from that. But also a lot of criticism of the way the police has reacted to what's happened here and the information they've given out. Do you think they could have handled it better?
I think it was really difficult for them to have handled it better, partly because I think the truth is that the police significantly caused this situation, as you said, and therefore don't necessarily have an easy solution to it. I mean, if you look at the way in which it spread to hitherto untouched areas. Areas where I live and areas where I've used to live have seen rioting on a scale that we haven't seen since the 1980s. The police probably couldn't have anticipated that, and therefore it's not really. I think a deeper solution is called for. Those who are calling for militaristic solutions, policing solutions, I think are missing the real source of the problem.
Richard, as night falls across London, across the rest of Britain tonight, police have been given the go-ahead to use water cannon and plastic bullets if they need to stop any riots. Will that work? Is it a way forward?
No, because I think that what's going to happen is you're going to potentially intimidate and injure a few people out of participating in riots, but you're going to leave the terrain pretty well prepared for future riots, because the resentment, the anger, the alienation will still be there. And by the way, in this country, supposedly, we have policing by consent. Now, that's necessary, as these riots have demonstrated that you couldn't have enough police to just rule purely by force. Now, if you start introducing plastic bullets and water cannons, which is something that Britain only traditionally uses in the colonial frontiers historically, then you basically erode the consent upon which policing is based. So I think it's a short-sighted measure, it's a panic measure, it's one being done because of the lack of a political leadership in this country. It's one in perpetual crisis.
One of the most shocking parts of what's happened over the last couple of days as well, I guess, is seeing how young the people who appear to have been taking part in this, some as young as 9 or 10 taking part in this looting. What does it tell us about the current state of English society? I say English as well because notably there's been nothing so far, at least, happening like this in Wales and Scotland.
True, and nothing in Northern Ireland where I come from either. Look, the truth is that young people are getting the worst of this recession. About 20% youth unemployment. They're getting some of the worst of the cuts. Education maintenance allowance has been cut for them. Tuition fees have gone up. Opportunities for them are being frittered away, and they see it and they feel it. Now, young kids may not be politically articulate. That doesn't mean they're not aware of this general situation that they're in. And I have a feeling that they think that there's nothing in it for them, and therefore very little to lose. So I think that's going to be one of the reasons, at least, why people so young have been involved.
OK, thanks for your thoughts. British writer and activist Richard Seymour on RT International tonight.
There's no question there's plenty of ideas, there's plenty of thoughts, plenty of people have got their own way of seeking to deal with this. I guess the answers are somewhere in between. We're going to be looking a little more at that this morning. But we're joined now by Pastor Crosby. Welcome, Pastor Crosby. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We were talking, and we've been talking, and that clip dealt quite a bit with the area of community. And of course, one of the things that you have been doing is, as part of that community, part of that Christian community, getting out in the midst of the riots. Now, first of all, just tell us a little bit of how that came about.
About 3 years ago, in the neighborhood they called Edmonton, when there were a lot of killings, I went to God. I said, now, God, you told us that we ought to be salt of the earth. Now, this community is going off. What is your solution? About 3 days later on, my daughter is texting her friends to come on over to her house. She's using one of those mobiles that's got a spell check.
Okay.
Every time she puts EDMON in, the spell check came up. An anagram was DEMON.
Right.
So that's when God says, look, I told you guys, you're not supposed to call the names associated with any of their gods. So from then, God instructed us to start calling that neighborhood Holy Town instead of Demon Town. And that's really where we started.
Right.
So we went really deep into the scriptures. We discovered that one of the ways in which the enemy maintained control over that neighborhood was through the altars. And we're told in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, that as long as we're on the face of the earth, we should destroy the altars. So I asked myself, well, where do I live? Earth. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be working on that. So we go out regularly, weekly, prophesying against those altars that God reigns and rules over the neighborhood. But then we also had, which is what we used, just 3 nights ago.
Be careful, don't. Yeah.
Okay, 3 nights ago. Just 3 nights ago. Just 3 nights ago, man. God told us what we ought to do is make.
So let me. So this is something regularly you've been doing.
Yeah.
Then of course the riots come.
Right.
And so instead of drawing in and saying we can't go out tonight because of the riots, you felt God was telling you to get out there still.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do what we normally do.
Yeah.
Get on out there and declare that is God's neighborhood. Because what we have on the placards,
I think we got a picture of the placards. I think somewhere.
I wanted to bring it in.
Yeah, I know. we couldn't show them in this studio, unfortunately. we'll try and find something. Yeah, just carry on for now. Yeah. So anyway, on the placards, yeah.
Yeah, we had various placards. One just says King Jesus blood. Another says, this is no more Edmonton or Demon Town, but Holy Town. One says King Jesus reigns and rules over Holy Town. So now here's what happened. When this started, I went to God, I said, now God, you know that this is your territory and somebody's going to try to invade. So God said, just get those placards out there. And man, I'm telling you, the kids came with us. The cops were there. There were hundreds of kids coming. We went out, And
Who were just your family? Was
yeah,
it?
just 5 of us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was 500 kids. It didn't matter because we had a load of angels there, which we didn't see, but they were there. And as they would come and they would say